Welcome to Life After 40 Conversations with Philip Blackett. This is a space for honest, thoughtful conversations about midlife without the hype, without diagnosis, and without pressure. If you're somewhere between 35 and 55 years old and quietly navigating questions about your energy, your identity, your work, your faith, your relationships, or your health, you're not alone. Midlife can often look stable on the outside and feel unsettled underneath. Life After 40 Conversations exist to do one thing well: to give adults in midlife the language, the clarity, and calm perspective for a season that can often feel confusing, lonely, or silently overwhelming. This show exists to help you feel seen, to help you feel steady and less alone as you navigate the second half of life. Now, bear in mind, this is not a self-help program. It's not a medical show. It's not a motivational pep rally. What this is a meaning-making space. Each episode is a grounded conversation with myself, alongside with leaders, caregivers, entrepreneurs, pastors, parents, professionals, and thoughtful human beings who are living through midlife in real time, just like you and me. We reflect on lived experiences without issuing prescriptions with peer pressure. Because I believe in this deeply. Midlife is worth living, and worth living well. And living it well does not start with pressure, it starts with perspective. So if you ever thought to yourself, why does this season feel different for me? Or why am I rethinking things that used to feel settled before? You're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I'm grateful that you're here. So let's begin today's conversation. My guest today is Lance Cayko. Lance is a dynamic serial entrepreneur, an award-winning architect, and the co-founder of F9 Productions, a leading design-build firm in northern Colorado. With over 2 decades in the architecture, engineering, and construction industries, Lance has earned international recognition, including the 2016 ArcIzer A+ Award for Architecture, plus Living Small for his innovative Atlas Tiny House project featured on HGTV. He launched F9 Productions in 2009 alongside his partner Alex Gore, transforming recession-era layoffs into a thriving business that has grown from a 2-person startup to a team of 10 operating from a custom design office in Longmont. Under his leadership, F9 has achieved remarkable milestones, such as topping BizWest Mercury 100 fastest growing private firms in Tier 3 for 2023, with a 386% growth rate, and securing the Best Architectural Firm title in the Best of Mile High Awards for both 2023 and 2024. In 2024, Lance was honored as one of BizWest's most influential business leaders in construction, and he received the 2021 Horizon Award from the North Dakota State University Foundation for his exceptional professional success and community contributions. Now, beyond his firm, Lance shares his expertise as a part-time lecturer at the University of Colorado in Boulder and his alma mater, North Dakota State University, where he mentors aspiring architects on practical design and business strategies. He also is the co-host of Inside the Firm, a top 5 global podcast on architecture and entrepreneurship, delivering candid insights on industry challenges, innovation, and growth to over 1 million listeners worldwide. Committed to community service, Lance founded Longmont Community Gardens in 2020, a nonprofit dedicated to urban sustainable gardening, education, and local involvement, evolving from his years of volunteer garden management. In his personal life, Lance is a devoted father of 4, an avid professional fisherman, and the creator of the YouTube channel Fishing with Lance, where he edits and shares his outdoor adventures, chasing walleye and paddlefish in Colorado and North Dakota. Whether discussing resilient business practices, sustainable design, or work-life balance, Lance is here to bring a grounded, multifaceted perspective to our conversation, hopefully inspiring our audience here today with his journey from hands-on tradesman to influential industry leader. Lance, welcome to Life After 40 Conversations.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, sir. So just to get started, the first question, so I shared your introduction with our audience. Love to get in your own words here the answer to this question. Before the titles, the companies, the resume, who is Lance in this season of life?
I think someone who finally has some wisdom about himself. Yeah, I've been told that recently without me saying it, right? It's like I was on another interview recently and I had mentioned to the host about the law of polarity and how it's guided my life. And I didn't really realize it until about 40 years old. And what it is I'm 43 right now, and what it is when my children asked me a couple years ago at a dinner, Dad, do you ever get scared? And I said, only when everything's going right. And they go, what? And I go, yeah, because then this feels like the rug's gonna get pulled out from underneath you. Not everything goes right in life. There's going to be negatives and positives. And I go, I actually get really excited when it's kind of a bad day. And as long as I don't lose my wits about myself and I don't go down a spiral and I maintain a level of modern stoicism throughout that day or that week, I think it's a test. I think it's always a test from God, because then it seems like I'm rewarded and the people around me are rewarded too if we just hold the calm in the storm.
Absolutely. That's a good way of putting it too. It's just, if something hasn't happened badly, we might have reason for worry or concern.
It's kind of weird. I understand that it's weird, but it's my way of like coping with that part of the human condition. And I think that's where, it's a mature sort of philosophy to have.
I like it. And I'll also say too, it does make me think of the story from the entrepreneur Sarah Blakely when she first talked about being at the family table. And I think it was her father that asked, hey, like, how did you fail today? And I have kids myself. I have not asked my kids that. I probably should, but it's just a different way of looking at things where, to your point, it's one where you're more even keel about the ebbs and flows of life. And at the same time, you also have an optimistic view when things don't go your way as well, because we've survived it up to this point,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's and you don't get there until you have the experience. Like that's what it takes to get there, and it's really important to not overwork yourself so that you can have those moments of calm and reprieve. And the book that really led me there was Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. I read that book, I think right around 39 or 40, and I've been trying my best to then reread it every summer, re-listen to it on a hike or series of hikes, because it's a very thick and long book. Because I came into the preconception of like stoicism thinking like, oh, it's just me and Philip looking at each other, not saying a word, just like having a staring contest. Like, no, that's a very pedestrian way of thinking about it. It's actually much deeper than that. And I just try to share that with folks when I'm on shows like this or lectures, or just getting, one-on-one advice to other people that are trying to make something of themselves in this world.
Absolutely. And so, Lance, when we think about midlife, I usually bracket that as like between 35 to 55 years old, which sounds like we're both squarely in for sure. When did you first realize something had shifted within you?
When I experienced burnout, actually, for the very first time in my life, I kind of had my already, it's like, is there such thing as a midlife crisis? I mean, people, you've heard that over and over again. I have anyway. You just in the modern era, like you hear this all the time. It's like, especially with males, like there's this midlife crisis idea. And mine was just burnout. That's the way I would describe it. Is we had just finished our first real estate development. We wore all three hats: architect, developer, builder. It was very difficult. It was one of the hardest things that I've ever done as a male like developer. The only analogy I could come up with was like, is this like giving birth? Is it that hard? Because it seemed like it was. I mean, I'm not a biological woman, so I can't give birth, but that was the only thing that really could come to mind with that. So for me, that was the moment. And what it was then I kind of checked out of work for that whole year. And that's when I became re-obsessed with the outdoors and fishing and try to just finding like where I was at in life. It was like, where do I go from here? Because that was a big accomplishment to do those three things and do this multi-million-dollar real estate development. And I'm sitting in one of the units that we develop. It's our office, as you mentioned in the bio. But for me, that was kind of a game changer. And I was really trying to, then I started looking back and it was like, okay. Then you start thinking about statistics and my brain just naturally goes there. It might be a morbid take, but it's like, all right, sir, you're 39, 40 right in there. It's like you take that times two and the average male only lives to I think like 72 in America or something like this. And you go, okay, all right, like time is really precious here. And how do we maximize it? And one of the things that I've been really trying to do as a influential person in this industry, just in entrepreneurship in general and mentoring people, is infuse the idea of is it really about work-life balance or is it actually about work-life harmony? Because the balance problem I have is when I hear that phrase. We've heard that phrase for I think like 3 decades now. And it's like, well, the image of a scale comes up in my brain when I see that, and it's like, okay, balance. So I'm trying to perfectly balance my outside life with my corporate life, and that just seems like you're doing trade-offs. And I don't think it's about trade-offs. I think it's about harmony, especially if you're an entrepreneur. Is like, how can you work in, like, for instance, yesterday I took the afternoon off. I wasn't in the office and I gardened for the rest of the day, and I could feel it in my soul and my body. I was like, I need to actually just get down to the tactile earth and reground myself and get rid of this strange pent up energy I had yesterday. And by the end of the day, it was gone.
I like that. Was there so with the grounding, with the gardening, was this something that was recent for you? Like, I'm curious, like, was it like a response to something you realized just how things have been progressing, how you've been doing things? Was there a point where you realized something that used to work for you suddenly didn't anymore in this season?
I think it's go, go, go. The idea of like, okay, Lance, every day you got to I used to tell myself this all the time, and I still kind of do. It's like every day you got to wake up. The world's against you. You're hungry. You're starving. This is the entrepreneur mindset when you start out. I got to wake up at 5. I gotta wake up and control the world before it controls me from 5 to 7 during the golden hours. I just gotta go, go, go. I gotta constantly be thinking about marketing and business, and I still do to an extent. But now, with the rise of this looks maxing and other maxing idioms that have come out on the internet, I'm into slow maxing. I'm really trying to like get to the point where it's like, hey, you can slow down a little bit. Maybe it's all right. Maybe now it's not about sprinting every day, but it's about just maintaining a jogging level of life. Because I don't want to get to the point of 60. So let's say, because I'm very much of the opinion like you have 4 lives, 1 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80. And during this third life that I'm in now, it's like, I think it's about jogging. And because if I kept sprinting during this third life, I'm convinced I would burn out by 60, 65. And as an architect in particular, that last 10 years of your life, a lot of architects practice until they die. And that's because that last 10 years is really the critical part of your career when you actually end up making the most impact, because you've finally established yourself so much in the industry that you're able to garner bigger, better commissions and the ones that are super special.
So that's interesting too, because it's like, even when you were mentioning before, Lance, it's like, oh, well, oftentimes you can kind of burn yourself to 60 to 65. And so for a lot of people's minds, 60 to 65, they're thinking, oh, that's just right in time for retirement. But to your point, it sounds like you look at it a little bit different, where it's like, just like you said, work-life balance versus work-life harmony.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you have a different relationship with that whole term of retirement now as well.
100%. Yeah. Because I get all these folks reaching out to me on LinkedIn. And the usual thing. It's like, hey, somebody's sending you a LinkedIn request, and a lot of them are you accept the request, and then they're instantly in your DMs trying to pitch you something. And one of the things I get pitched all the time is like, have you thought about retirement? Like I'm here to do the financial thing and everything. And I've thought about it. Yes, I have like retirement plans technically, but I want to make it so I don't, and I dread my job. Like I don't want to retire. I think retirement for me would be a form of death. That's just not how I operate. And a lot of high output entrepreneur individuals like myself really don't want to. I mean, that's kind of our purpose. Our purpose is like we've accepted to bear our metaphorical cross of like, we're here to serve. We're here to like serve humanity. We're here to serve our fellow man and woman. And I believe God gave me all of these gifts for a reason. And I just feel like I owe it to him and I owe it to everybody else, myself, my family, to continue and try to serve as long as possible.
Absolutely. When you think about this season, what's probably been the biggest surprise for you in midlife?
Boy, that one just guys has got me like a little bit stumped. Huh? What is the biggest surprise with that one? Well, probably it's my children actually. I have 4 children, 2 bios, 2 non-bios, and the they all turned out the opposite of what I expected them to be. Once puberty hit, then they sort of flipped who they were, and now I'm realizing that my daughter is much more like me than I would have ever anticipated going into it whatsoever. I thought, oh, because my son looks identical to me. He's just a little bit taller, but same curly hair, same features. We stand next to each other. People are like, yep, it's like 1 to 1. I mean, there's just no difference in it. So physically, we're the same. Emotionally, completely the opposite. And my daughter obviously is a woman, so young woman. So she look like me a little bit, but like it's different. Doesn't have curly hair or anything like that. But her personality, her emotions, the way she works with people, the way she is just on top of things, that's actually been this most surprising thing. That's actually been the most surprising thing by far, is in my personal life. Professional wise, I'm just always continually surprised and blown away. Everybody's got a different path, personally and professionally, but you just, I guess it's the notion of rejecting what other influencers have to say about how you obtain work, keep work going, run a successful business, is that I often find myself as like me and my business partner as the outliers on just, I don't know if it's because we're naturally contrarians. So we just go, wait a minute, what did you just say? Like, for instance, the work from home thing. Almost everybody in our industry was just clamoring over this idea during COVID. That's like, yep, here we are. See, you don't need a physical office. Everybody can work from home. And I was like, well, first of all, I'm not a follower of the crowd of people. So I found myself going, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. And really what it came down to in the end was I went like, is this really how we want to mentor young people virtually? I don't think this is the way forward. Like we talk all the time about in architecture specifically, the importance of like an open studio environment where somebody can feel comfortable turning to us that minute in person and asking a question and seeking guidance so they can continue to grow and flourish and become a good professional. Those are the two big things I think that were surprising to me.
Mm. When it comes to midlife, was there anything that you feel like it forced you to stop ignoring? And what changed once you paid more attention to it?
Oh, my health, by far. Yeah, that was the big one. You just realize the fragility. 2 days ago, I lost my grandma.
Mm,
And, every time there's a death in the family or a close one, I just had, when I was talking to my daughter about this at dinner the other night, she was asking how I feel and everything. And I go, well, it's kind of like, again, the law of polarity. It's like people are going to die. So that's sort of the negative part of it. The positive part is when, you're born and then you start and all of that, the yin and yang, the alpha, the omega. And I was like, but the omega is really important. It's like when the death happens, it's that's God's way, I think, one of his ways of telling us this life is very short and this is a moment for you to re-examine what are your priorities, are the grudges worth holding against people, family members, and everything like that, or is there a better path forward? It's kind of like when alcoholics go through AA and they have to go apologize to people
hmm
afterwards and they're supposed to make their amends. It's like, to me, it's the same sort of thing. It's like that person is no longer here. A thing has been removed from your life. So just like alcohol was removed from your life, then you have a moment of clarity. I think for me, that's one of the big moments, and that I've been trying to really be cognizant of is just being very much aware of my health, taking care of myself, getting proper sleep, having a routine, eating well. I gave up pastries for Lent, and I really haven't went back. I'm kind of happy about that. So I think that's the important part. You think you're invincible for those first two lives. You really do. Even in your 20 to 40, I'm like, yeah, I could still have a couple glasses of wine a night. And it's like, no, you sure can't, because what a vast, you didn't think until you have that clarity. It's like, nope, you don't. I love wine, but I can't have it. I just know better now.
What would you say was probably the hardest change for you to make health wise, knowing the importance of health for you now?
Doing just the most simple, stupid stuff like routines of I go every quarter and I get my ears cleaned. I go every quarter and get my teeth cleaned, which is a lot. Um, and then just drinking water. Like it's the most simple, stupid stuff. And just actually trying to be more in tune with myself. Because what I used to do is I used to come home at the end of the day and instead of a glass of water, big glass of water at the end of the day, and not realizing, oh, I feel drained right now because I'm dehydrated.
hmm
And I would instead of me thinking, which was false thinking, I'm drained right now. I'm stressed. Sorry, the idea was I'm stressed, so therefore I should take some stress away, have a glass of wine, calm down. And really it was, no, you should just have a glass of water and lay down. And then get up and cook supper and do the things.
I'm giggling because it's like you think about it where it's like for a lot of people, the cultural norm is if you are stressed, that is the perfect time to go to happy hour
Yeah.
and have a beer, have a wine glass and a sort or multiple, depends on the person, and how much stress that person was going under, right? Versus to your point, an alternative could be how much water did you have today? You
hmm
just might be dehydrated. How much sleep did you have? You might just be tired. You just might need to just lay down.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. There's this funny comedy duo on all the social media channels. They're called the Content Machine. And maybe you've seen them. They're so funny. They're like two dudes out of Minneapolis. I'm just huge fans because they're hilarious. And one of the skits that they do reoccurring is they kind of make fun of their girlfriends. And there's like this girlfriend hotline or this boyfriend hotline that the girlfriends can call. So the girlfriend is calling and she's like wanting to complain to the boyfriend, but the first friend is sort of the screener. And he's like, "You have reached Tyler's hotline or Tyler's boyfriend hotline." And she's like, "Is this a complaint? Is this, are you calling to Shaboink or all these other things?" And they go, "Calling to complain." And they go, "Great. have you drank water today? And, and she gets mad because she's like, and they're like, and she's like, no. And she's like, and then they go, are you a fully functioning adult who is aware of your dehydration? And then she hangs up and stuff like that. It just reminds me of that. It could go both ways. I'm admitting it's a, this is a gender neutral thing, but it's so funny when you get to that point and I tell my children this too. I'm like, first thing, I used to think it was silly all the time when my wife would tell the children like, have you drank water today? Or like the solution to everything is water. The dog's sick. Give it some water. I'm like, oh my God, it's so true. Just the most simple, stupid stuff. I think we just get lost in the mix of living in society. It's a very complicated, we live in a very complicated civilization. Right? We're like talking magically through satellites and everything right now. And then we miss the forest for the trees. And so that's the real point of clarity I think that happens midlife for the people who are trying to make their second half, their last two lives, meaningful and long.
It's so interesting because even for what you shared before is like, talking through satellites is like not too long ago, probably like 20, 30 years ago, we weren't having these type of communications. And because of what you mentioned before, like our mutual love for marketing, I also thought about when you said that earlier, it's like, there's not enough ads that say, have you had your water today?
Yeah.
It's like, it's 5 o'clock. Have you had your water today? It's the water
Yeah.
hour. It's
Yeah.
like, no, we
Just
talk about something different.
imagine one driving down the freeway and it's just like a white on black or black on white. It's just real obvious but plain, and it just says, drink your water, idiot. That would go a long way. It'd be so good. It's kind of like the got milk stuff, got water.
Exactly. Got
Yeah.
water, which I would imagine probably would be more helpful because you need to drink more glasses of water than you need to be drinking more glasses of milk.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
What I want you to think about, Lance, is as you reflect on this season of life for you, was there a change you made, whether you shared it or not already, that in reflection you're grateful for from this perspective? If you had not made that change, wow, what kind of a difference that would have made and how that would have cost me if I had not made that change in my life.
The big one is understand. I wear two different hats. I wear a white collar hat and I wear a blue collar hat. And I struggled a lot when I put on the blue collar hat in the first couple years with the reciprocity I was getting from the folks in the blue collar world in how to get things done with them and how to just work with them, how they want to be worked with. The white collars in the engineering, architecture, that professional white collar world, we're okay with the kind of communication where it's like, here's a big email, please answer the questions. And that answers just are like boom, 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 boom. Yes, no, maybe, but they're very concise. And we can have this sort of just like instant call somebody, get an answer, and go from there. And the blue collars I found were getting sort of offended personally and they would take it as if I was, what I understood after interacting with them is that if there was something off, they felt as if I could sense that they felt as if I was just a jerk because I would walk up on the job site or send an email or a text or something, and then they would digress and it would take forever to get to the answer. And what I realized is that those folks need their wheels greased a lot, actually. And it's like a 5 to 10 minute conversation. So you got to be prepared mentally to get out, if you're walking up on the job site or giving them a call. Hey, Travis, how's it going, bud? Good. How was your weekend? And it's a lot of small talk. because the humanization is much different on
Hmm.
that side of things. That has been my big epiphany, and I've brought this up to people that have been on my show and that I've been on their show many, many times. And finally, there was this gentleman I had on my show. His book is called the like Best CEO or something like this. And I picked his brain, and he had been mostly dealing with blue collar folks in his business coaching. And I asked him the question. I'm like, why why is it different with them? And he explained the whole wheel greasing thing to me. And now I've just implemented that throughout myself, my business partner, and our whole staff. And it has vastly changed how we work with the blue collar folks who are out there in the field risking their limbs, their lives to build the buildings we're doing. So it's a different approach. And so I think to sum it up, it's just a matter of empathy and really becoming a more empathetic person and understanding the difference between empathy and sympathy. I had confused the two for my whole life because my first wife told me all the time, you have no empathy. And she's the one that falsely like implanted in my head that it was, I was like, I feel like I do have empathy. I'm not, I think you're confusing sympathy. And I read this book called Train Your Empathy,
Hmm.
uh, about during that period. And that's what changed it for me. I was like, oh, it's a definition issue. Got it. All right. All right. So, and then I started testing myself. Do I have empathy? Yeah, I think I do. I think I have empathy. I can see it from other people's perspectives and then talk their language and then grease the wheels and all of that good stuff. I admittedly don't have a lot of sympathy for people who don't want to help themselves and become better people or improve themselves professionally even. So that's been the biggest shift for me, the mind shift. And I think it's again back to sort of the wisdom as like, well, you got to go through the fire. Yeah, this isn't something I don't think that's really taught in
Hmm.
school, right? And even when you're in school, it's like trying to get the grades, trying to graduate, trying to just survive. And I'm not sure even if it is taught in school. I don't remember it being taught, but I'm trying to give grace to other schools, or people, maybe they have been. But it didn't register with me until I went through the fire and had to actually walk the walk.
Gotcha. So it's almost like, how to relate with different groups of people
100%.
and finding out what's like important for them, whether it's on the job or at home.
Yeah. And it makes you a better salesperson. You talk about marketing. That's one of the big things a lot of independent influencers like myself in my industry, in the architecture and engineering construction industry, are really shifting their minds towards now, which I appreciate. Is like, yes, you can win all these design and construction awards, but that's not actually really what is going to get you hired at the end of the day.
Mm,
What is going to get you hired at the end of the day is you seeking to understand through empathy exactly the things you just talked about, Philip, and then you going, okay, well, here's how we can solve those problems for you. We are your problem solver. That's what we'll do first and foremost. The design will happen. We'll do really cool stuff. But really, I want to focus on how can I solve your problem? How can I make your life easier? How can I be your professional champion and advisor for what you're trying to accomplish?
it makes me think of some advice my mom gave me growing up, where it's like, to your point, like whether it's the awards, which I think was the case for me back in like middle school, high school, was just like, the grades, the awards, the extracurriculars, da, 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 da. Like those things, Philip, those are the table stakes for you to be at the table of consideration, which for me at the time was like trying to get into the right college. And at that point, once you're able to be considered, there's something that has to move the needle on whether or not someone says yay or nay on you. Right. And so I think I kind
Hmm.
of sensed something similar here, which is like with the awards and the accolades, it's like, that's great. But to that point, whether somebody says yes or no for you, oftentimes is, do I know this person? Do I trust this person? Do I feel like he's really going to put my best interest at the front end? And I feel safe and comfortable with something that holds precious to me in his stewardship.
Yeah, yeah. It's sometimes I think when we first get into business, no matter what business you're in, you're like, am I, I think we have the false impression that it's all going to be about money. Meaning, oh, if I'm the lowest, if I'm maybe the lowest cost for this person, they'll hire me. It's lowest bid, lowest bid. It's not. It's actually not, right? You could be the highest and beat out the lowest people if you present yourself as solving the problems, and you are the kind of partner they need to do that. And that's been a huge shift because we've won a lot of projects where we are end up being the medium high or the high bid, and people go, look, it was a tough decision. They'll come to it. It was a tough decision. There was everybody was lower than you, and you're high. And then they go, but we think you're the best solution for us. We feel comfortable with you, like you said. We feel confident in you being able to solve these problems. And then once they do sign, and if you do win that high bid, the pressure's on in a whole different way because you go, okay, now we have to talk the talk. We have to walk the walk. I mean, we are presenting ourselves as these very highly capable people, and the fee reflects that. So now I have to execute. It's kind of a beautiful symbiotic relationship. It's the best relationship, I think, at that point when you can get to those kind of client relationships.
Absolutely. Makes me think of like the 3 C's I was often taught in business, where it's like, you got to demonstrate the competence and the compassion in order to get the confidence and the client.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So when you think about where things are now for you, Lance, um, what are some of like the beliefs, some of the habits, some of the rhythms that for you now are non-negotiable?
Well, it's another surprise, and I can't believe I didn't talk about this when you asked the previous questions about like what has been the biggest shift. I had I had thought growth for sake of growth is good no matter what. And we had a really good growth period during COVID. People were surprisingly building the most during COVID, and it was for obvious reasons once we looked in hindsight, and it was work from home, got to expand the house, got to make a new office. There was a lot of cash printed from the government, so people had money to spend. It was kind of a perfect storm in that way. So we got all these contracts signed. We started hiring a lot of staff. I think we got up to like 15 at one point. Now we're down to 10. And during that 1 to 2 year period, I kept looking at the bottom line going, why aren't we more profitable? Like it should have just happened, right? And then our customer service went down a little bit too, our quality of customer service. And that's the first thing that we try to pride ourselves on at our firm is like customer service number one. Again, it's the design will happen. We're not touting ourselves first and foremost as hire us because we are award-winning architects. It's hire us because we are the best problem solvers for you.
Mm-hmm.
So the big thing that's non-negotiable for me now is I don't want to grow past 12 people. There's 2 other engineering firms that we've worked with. That's one started up the same year we did, 17 years ago, in the same kind of way. 2 people, 2 principals, just like me and Alex. And then another one started about 10 years ago, kind of like the same sort of thing, 2 principals. And those 2 firms were started as a reaction to coming from big firms where the customer service was poor because they were just huge corporations. So when they started their own firms, it was like a breath of fresh air in the whole Denver metro. Everybody flocked to these 2 firms because it was like, oh my God, they're picking up the phone. They're answering emails. We are getting customer service. We know they can do the engineering. That's not the issue. It's like, can we get you to schedule a meeting with us? And basically everybody flocked to them. Boy, they went just zoomed. And it was like they went, I think they all went over 12 people within the first couple years. And then all of a sudden I saw like the customer service level go down. And I went, oh, okay. What is this number 12? And my business partner even we did one whole episode on our show dedicated to the number 12 as it relates to staff and service-based businesses. And my business partner is an Army veteran. And what he did is he did a big analogy of like, well, this is how it works in the Army. Like that number 12 is real. and how the platoons and the divisions are split up and how they're commanded. So for me, the non-negotiable one now is like, and I'm thankful for it, that I'm like, no, 12. 12 is where it's at. I know where our revenue can potentially be. I know what I want to make per year. And I want to know, and that level of staff of 12 will still allow us to do all of the things that we want to do. That's the big non-negotiable one for me. Everybody's probably got their own number, but I would just caution people as they start their businesses to really think about and try to find a target where they're like, what is my end goal here? Is my end goal high level of customer service? Can I achieve that after I get to a certain growth level or not? If not, then maybe you need to re-examine like we did.
Absolutely. And so in the thought of, piggybacking on work life harmony versus balance, if that, as far as like sticking to 12 for you, is like a work non-negotiable, is there like a more personal, like life non-negotiable for you, whether belief, habit, or rhythm that's most important to you now?
The mornings are non-negotiable. I really practice the golden hours. It's sort of a thing I made up because it's like it's metaphorical and then it's real, in the sense of getting your circadian rhythm off to the right start in the morning. Because I try to wake up with the sun and
Mm-hmm.
really keep the artificial lights low, kind of operate in the dark until it comes up. And so my routine that is non-negotiable is like I just had to have this discussion with my 21-year-old son who now lives with me again. I'm like, you got to be home before 10. I can't be woken up by the alarm. I need my 8 hours of sleep. I need to get up at 5. I need to get up right then, drink my big glass of water, put on the coffee, go. Then I go stretch and pray the rosary, and then get to the computer at about 5:30, 6 a.m. And then I get my 2 golden hours where I'm drinking coffee, getting rejuvenated, and trying to stay ahead of the world in that way. Where, like, if I'm sending out all the emails and orchestrating everybody that I have to orchestrate before they're able to orchestrate me, then I'm in control and I can maintain my work life harmony. That's why it's non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm. It's always like get on offense before everyone gets on the field. And so now you're not playing defenses now. Like, all right, cool. It's like he's a little bit more relaxed for me. You
Yeah,
know,
and I don't need any trick plays. I don't want to do the flea flicker.
the wildcat out option.
Yeah.
Well, Lance, I love to learn how things are, how you look at things now. What does thriving look like for you at this moment?
Oh, thriving is, I hate to use the word. I think thriving is not going too far in one direction. I've leaned politically very far left when I was young, and then I went very far right. And I think what it is about understanding the gooey middle, because the gooey gray middle is actually where problems get solved and how things move forward in society. Because when you can't really tip too far in one direction, because then it's just like the seesaw effect that happens in life, and you just become unbalanced, right? I know we talked about harmony, but that is a real thing. It's like I'm trying to maintain, just again jogging instead of sprinting, and that's the big one. Is just how do you operate in that gray middle. And because I just find it over and over again, that's where really I would say over 50% of the answers are clear, but you're pulling them from that gray goopy middle and trying to understand. It's a complicated place.
Mhm. Absolutely. So as we land this plane, right, in our conversation, this has been really helpful for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people listening and watching us at this point. Um, I do want to ask you if there is someone that is listening or watching us right now that he or she may be feeling like, whether it's in business or in life, they're drifting a little bit, maybe approaching burnout, as you mentioned before, in midlife. What do you want them to hear from you right now?
They have to trust the plan. I think there is a plan. I don't believe in like pure predetermined destiny. The way I like to think about it is like if God planted you on the earth and you grew into a tree, there's a trunk for sure. So that's sort of like the first initial predetermined path, right? But then there's all these branches, and it's like, which branch do you want to pick? If you pick this branch, then it goes to this branch and this branch and this branch. You're still on the journey. And there's a lot of victimhood mentality that's come out in the last couple decades, kind of for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a straight white male, doesn't matter if you are the full intersectionality pyramid, where you're just kind of, you check all the letters and boxes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
What matters is you recognize that you're still playing the game. You're still playing the game. And I use a generational example for this. So, a lot of millennials, I'm sort of in between millennial and Gen X, like I call it Gillennial. And, like every generation thinks something negative about the other generation. So a lot of millennials and Gen Z, because I hear it from my Gen Z staff, like these boomers, they had it so easy. And they did. The boomers, 100%. World War II was over. Everything's wiped out. We got all the manufacturing over here. You could raise a family off of one wage and all of that stuff. So sure, fine. The boomers were maybe handed the best hand of cards possible. Okay, let's talk about you, Gen Z. You are still handed a hand of cards. You're still playing the game, the game of poker of life. It's just that your hand of cards is kind of crap. But that doesn't matter. You just have to play them more careful. That's your challenge. That's stoicism. That's modern stoicism is going, what can I control in my life? How can I make my hand of cards better? I just have to do it much more carefully. I have to be more on point than the other generations were. It's still the American dream is still 100% alive and well. It's just a narrower path to get there. But that doesn't mean you don't have a path.
Yeah. I think the same sense too, Lance, that, with where technology is today, some people might be like, hey, we might even have it better than the boomer generation. Just depends on your perspective and how you look at things, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're still playing the game. That's really, I gave a lecture to, I'm a personal donor of the North American or National Organization of Minority Architects, because I'm a minority architect, Native American. And so I'm going up there tomorrow to go sit on a panel with them. And I gave a lecture last year to all of those students. And that was really the culmination of the speech for me. I was like, you're playing the hand. Like, this victimhood stuff is not going to be helpful to you. It's like it's helpful to a certain extent of you just realizing where you're at and what path you have, but it's up to you to just play that hand. Like, don't give up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's sound advice for sure. And so, Lance, this has been great. I think just kind of learning your insights here, whether business, family, life in general, has been really helpful. For anyone that's watching or listening that wants to follow more from you, as far as like what you're working on currently, and where to go if they want to take the next step, essentially. How can they best connect with you after this conversation?
Best number one way is to go to LinkedIn, type in my name, Lance, last name Cayko, Cayko. I will connect with you. I will link in with you. I share all kinds of positive affirmations like we just talked about on my LinkedIn profile. If you want to listen to us, you can go to insidethefirmpodcast.com and subscribe. And then last one would be, if you want to keep up everything we're doing architecture construction wise, you can go to f9productions.com, sign up for our newsletter, and watch us.
Perfect. Absolutely. Well, Lance, thanks so much again for being a part of our conversation here. And for those listening and watching, hopefully you've gotten a good number of notes here and lessons learned. One thing to take away from here is that, midlife isn't necessarily a season to fix. It's one to, dare I say, build a better blueprint off of. right? A better design. And oftentimes it's kind of taking what you learned and figure out how to do things a little bit better with the new tools and resources you've had and that sort. And so if there's anything that Lance has shared that has been particularly insightful for you, caused you to rethink some things you had thought before, or maybe clarify some things, like definitely take time to meditate on that. Take time to really understand what that means for you. What's probably the next step from there? It might be as simple as follow Lance for more. Because I think that that's oftentimes where change often happens, not from the urgency to do, as we talked about before, but give yourself the space and the grace to be more aware of what's happening before you make your next move. And so, as we conclude this conversation, once again, thanks so much, Lance, on this one. For more information on Life After 40, head on over to our website at lifeafter40.com. You can also connect with me at philipblackett.com. And just as a final reminder here, midlife is worth living and worth living well. So, Lance, thanks so much for being a part of our conversation here today. Thanks for everyone watching and listening. This is Life After 40 Conversations with Philip Blackett. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to share this with someone that this could be helpful for, and we'll see you in the next conversation. Take care.